Okay, so tonight, part 13 of Facing Adversity. And as always, well, not as always, but since last week, I really, if anybody's out there floating by and who is an agnostic or an atheist, a non-believer, and you have concerns, questions, comments, whatever, accusations, I would love to address them and speak in a nice, kind way and try to give some dialogue and reason to your concerns and questions. So don't be afraid. And if you'd like to email us any of those concerns, you can email us at lifetalklive7@gmail.com, or you can post the question in the comment section of our YouTube page right now. And if you're watching on YouTube, as you are, please hit the subscribe button or the thumbs up or thumbs down. But we'd like to have some atheist questions out there. You know why I love atheists? Because God loves atheists. He loves agnostics. He loves all people. Anyway, so as we started this series a while back, Facing Adversity, we came into a sub-series called What's Happening? Oh, I prayed. I prayed. You're losing it. She's losing it. Okay, we're a little dysfunctional here tonight. Sally's in a giddy mood. My tech, lighting, camera department, audio, visual aid person. So she keeps giving me these signals. I don't know what they mean. Signals, Jerry, signals. Okay. Anyway, can God really fix my mess? Can he fix your mess? Can he fix this mess? Okay? It's a triunity of messes. Mine, yours, and ours, right? Can it be done? And what we started talking about last time was, if we are going to call on someone to fix a certain situation, well, that person better be able to fix the situation. And we use as an example, if you had a problem with your house, you would call a contractor who specialized in that type of situation. Have a lady that I know from church. She has a house upstate, and the house has a foundation problem, and the house is starting to list a little bit. And I'm trying to get anybody out there who is a contractor, wants to get some work upstate. Anyway, she was looking for some help, and she was concerned and trying to help her find a contractor. You need someone who's just not your regular carpenter. It has to be someone who understands foundations, jacking up a house. And when you're going to trust someone to jack up your house and level it out, you want to know that they know what they're doing. And we decided, you want to see them pull up in a nice fancy truck. You want to see tools. You want to see writing on the sign. You want to see a Better Business Bureau report. You want to see references. You want to talk to the person. You want to have a good feeling about them. You want to see pictures of the work they've done before. Have they done this type of stuff? And then we decided, well, what's the last thing? The last thing is, do you trust them? Do you trust them to say, here is my home. Here's the keys. Where do I sign? Because if we can't come to that agreement, then we're not going to have any faith in the person that we're going to entrust with something, really, really important. Now, isn't it interesting? And we think upon this. We always say, I don't know if I trust this one or I trust that one, and how can you trust people, with our loved ones? But boy, how often do we just walk in, especially now, you walk into a walk-in clinic and you just take your kid and say, this is Dr. Schmidt here. You don't even know this person, but you automatically have so much faith that whatever Dr. Schmidt says is going to be the right thing. And, we instantly have so much faith in him. We don't even know if he's a real doctor. We just assume in these days he's got a white lab coat on, he must be a doctor. Who knows, right? Think about how much faith we exercise in people because we just assume, right? We just assume. And boy, we don't give God any credit. I mean, he's only the guy who created, the stratosphere and the ionic sphere and the galaxies beyond the galaxies. He's created our atoms, our substructure, our skeletal structure, our respiratory system, our digestive system, our reproductive system, all these things, man, wow, that's pretty, he comes with some credibility. Yet we don't trust him to fix the very thing he has designed. And that's what we've been starting to talk about. And we came across a very interesting scripture, which was Psalm 18. And we started to poke around at Psalm 18. And I'm just going to read through it quickly. I'm not going to go over it like we did. And I want to pick up where we left off. And just as we go, if any of you guys have questions, comments, you want me to stop, you want to, you want to, add something, let me know. You even want to change the subject. Something else comes up, you want to have, gee, I always wondered about this, whatever. Don't be afraid to interrupt me. But let's go to Psalm 18, verse 2. The Lord is my rock and my fortress, my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I will trust, my buckler. Remember, we had a lot of fun with the buckler, okay, if you don't know what that is. The horn of my salvation, my high tower. I will call upon the Lord who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. And if you weren't here for those segments, just go back on our YouTube page on our playlists for Life Talk Live, and you will see all of these things that we've done. Verse 4 was, the sorrows of death have circled me, and the floods of ungodly men have made me afraid. The sorrows of hell compassed me about. The snares of death prevented me. In my distress I called upon the Lord. I cried unto my God. He heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry came before him, even into his ears. So that's where we left off last week. And what we closed up with last week was this. So we know what the complaint is. Okay, must be the Wi-Fi. Okay, we're not having a good signal here tonight. Okay, we're losing some people here. Okay, well, don't forget, if you can't see us good, everything that we do here will be recorded and will be posted up on YouTube later on tonight, and you can see the whole show. And remember, people, you can jump over to YouTube. You can leave Facebook Live, go to YouTube, type in Center Reach Bible Church, and it'll take you to our live show. And we normally have less problems with YouTube. Okay. Anyway, so we decided last week, okay, so we're going to run to God. He's my rock. He's all these great things. He's going to get me through. Death and fear are all around me. They're making me sad. I'm in distress. Okay, God, so here I am. Okay, how many times have people said, okay, I'm calling out to God. What's he going to do? What can he do? Okay, will he do anything? And that's the question, people. That's the question. Why are we running to God and we're not expecting him to do anything? Okay, I think when we call out to him, we really don't expect him to do anything, maybe because we don't believe he really can or he really will do anything. So does the scripture say, what will God do in your situation? What will he bring about in your life, and how will he do it? Well, let's get back to Psalm 18, and we're going to go into verse... Well, let's just pick up where we left off last week in verse 6. In my distress I called upon the Lord and cried unto my God. He heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry came before him, even into his ears. And we spent a lot of time discussing what that all means. Okay? And, well, what's the reply? What did God do? Verse 7 is what God has done. Okay? Verse 7, then. Okay? The word then is always a lead-in word. It means something else is going to follow. Something that is not static, but something that is active. Okay? A flow. Something that's going to move ahead. I spoke, then something happened. There was a response. There was a call. There was an answer. And it's not just and this is an important point here in verse 7 of Psalm 18. Wasn't just that God said something, okay, because we can read his word, all the time. God will never leave us or forsake us, blah, blah, blah. But I want to feel it. What do you do, God? Well, here we show you how God works. What does he actually do? Okay? And it says, then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations also of the hills moved and were shaken because he was wroth. He was angry, okay? God did something. And we can look at this actually or metaphorically. When it says, then the earth shook, well, we can apply that to in my life, okay? When I cried out to God, he began to move, okay? Now, let me ask you a question. If you're praying for a person in your life, right, that's causing you trouble, whatever it is, okay, and you say, well, I prayed, God, and nothing happened. Well, how do you know nothing happened? Because the minute you prayed, God deciphered your prayer, and he started to move. How did he move? He began to work in that person's life. He began to work in your life. Now, if how can I bring this down to something that makes sense down here on an earthly level? I don't know what my neighbor at 5 houses is doing right now. I could pray for them. Gee, I hope, Joe 5 houses down is okay. Lord, help him get up. He fell down. Well, I don't know I can't see there. How do I know that God is not working in that person's life? People, you have to believe that when you pray, God hears. He takes in that prayer and he decides the best course of action. Sometimes he'll move things. Sometimes he'll shake foundations. He might have to pull things out that we were depending on, that were in the way. Think about this, and that's why we have to be really careful when we pray. Let's just say you're someone who is really introverted, really shy, you don't have much confidence, and you say, God, I just need more confidence. I need to be bolder. I'm so afraid of everything. I have to depend on everyone. Well, how would God answer that prayer? Well, he might have to move the people out of your life that you depend on. He's going to force you in a place that you are going to have to stand up, that you're going to have to act. Okay? We think he's going to just give us an injection of confidence. No, sometimes he builds that confidence through situational occurrences. Okay? I have to stand up to this need. I have to get up. Now I have no choice. Okay? There's an old saying in church circles that you don't pray for patience. Because if you pray for patience, how do you learn patience? Well, God gives you things to wait for. Okay? Because remember, God doesn't just answer things. He also uses the tangible elements of our very existence. So if I have a problem waiting for things, God says, well, instead of just me giving you patience, okay, I will teach you patience. I will teach you patience. How do you learn patience? By waiting for things and being good at waiting. Sometimes we expect God to answer our prayer one way when he's going to answer it a totally different way. So back to verse 7. When this person prayed, the earth shook. God began to shake things up in your life. I've said this before, people, and I'm going to say it again. And I don't recommend this unless you truly understand it. It's a prayer that I believe is one of the most powerful prayers there are. That if you don't like where you're at, if you don't like where your children are at, if you don't like where your nation is at, if you don't like any of these things, there's a prayer. And the prayer is, well, I'm going to hold back on that prayer. I'm going to first share where I heard this prayer. I heard this prayer many, many years ago, and someone said, if you want God to really roll up his sleeves, like I have my sleeves rolled up, what gets God to do that? If you feel like you've just been living this humdrum existence, well, you pray this prayer. And the person warned me, said, Scott, don't pray this prayer because expect things to happen radically. And they scared me enough that I didn't pray that prayer for a very long, probably over a year, maybe 2 years. I thought about it all the time, but I was afraid to do it. until one day I said, you know what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Because I was just so blah, just existing and going through the motions. And I said, God, and this is the prayer, people. And again, don't do it unless you really want God to do something beyond your wildest imagination. The prayer is, God, do whatever it takes to make me the person you want me to be. I give you the freedom to use any means at your disposal, whether it be my family, my children, my home, my possessions, my health. Do whatever you think is best to make me into the person you want me to be. You can say that with your children. If you have a problem child, you know the prayer you should take, you should say, is not, Lord, let them be blessed and happy and have a wonderful life apart from God. No. You need to say, God, if we truly love our children, do whatever it takes to bring them to you. I give you, Lord, not that we have to give God permission, but, you know, Lord, I trust you. I want them to be saved more than anything else. Okay? I'm going to give you two examples of, and you'll probably never want to pray that prayer, but always remember, God is very expedient. He gets things done. He knows the only way for some people. He knows one person, one particular person. He could just, pull one hair out, and they're like, "Okay, I got you, God. I'm following you. I love you." Some people, He's got a pound. Okay. With me, it doesn't take much. He just gives me a little pain in my ear. I say, God, I'm so sorry. What do I got to do? I'm so sorry. I've been sin. Help me. It doesn't take much to bring me to my knees. But other people are a lot harder. I always go back to the story, Soul Surfer, okay? Remember that movie? Hollywood made it into a movie, but the actual story is much better. Soul Surfer is true story about a girl who was from Hawaii. She was a surfer, and her parents were Christians, loved the Lord. She was a Christian, and her parents basically prayed, God, we want to use this girl for you. Take our child, do whatever it takes to make her a light for the world, because this young lady loved Jesus Christ. And what did God do? Because they thought, probably when they were praying that God would use her surfing, she would become a famous surfer, maybe go to the Olympics, and through that skill that she had, she would speak to millions. But God had another plan, okay? And what God did is one day, I don't know how old she was, 16, 17, 18, I guess. She was in a little lagoon practicing some surf things, and a place where there wasn't supposed to be any sharks. Some random shark jumped out, bit clean off her right arm and took it away. She lost almost all her blood. She was there all by herself, and she bled out, but somehow, supernaturally, they found her, got her to a hospital, and she became the one-armed surfer. Now, she didn't become a famous surfer because she was great at. She got back to surfing. The first thing she said when she woke up was, "Will I be able to surf again? I want to surf," and she did. And you know what's interesting? She became more famous than she ever would have been if she was just a regular surfer who won the Olympics. I mean, do you remember who won the Olympics 5 years ago for surfing? Most people don't, but this girl, because she got asked to go on all the talk shows, and every talk show that she went to and every college that invited her, what did she say? Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and got me through. She did more with one arm than she ever could have done with two arms. I mean, there's so many stories, man. We have Nick Vujicic. He has no arms and no legs, and he does more for Christ. But what was the other? Well, you know what? Someone that I know, right now I know, and they're actually living this. They had a teenage girl, and very, very troubled, going through very rebellious, horrible times. Could not get through, praying, God, knock some sense into this girl. She's just way out there. Well, she ended up getting hurt really bad and ended up, pretty much bedridden. I don't want to go into details. I don't want to give out really who that person is. But through this event, okay, that has left this person unable to speak and unable to do anything for the rest of her life, she came to Jesus Christ and loves Jesus Christ more than ever before. Prayer was answered. God shook the earth. He moved mountains. He gets things done. Now, I'm not saying every time you pray, God is going to use some horrible thing like that. But I have to tell you, in my life, and I've shared this with you guys before, okay, I didn't know I wanted to be a pastor. I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I wanted to be something for God. And I wasn't happy. You know, I told you guys I had a great job, made a lot of money, had the job of my dreams. I have anything that I ever wanted. It was just perfect. The house, the white picket fence, the dog, the kids. I had it all. I had it all. And I wasn't happy. And I wanted more. And I finally got so desperate that I said, God, do whatever it takes. Take me. Do it. And I didn't realize how quickly that would happen, because it was soon after that that I fell into heavy-duty anxiety, which led to depression, clinical depression. Next thing I know, I have a gun in my hand, a suicide note. I went right down the tubes. And you would say, well, why would God do that? Because God shakes and wakes and bakes and turns things around. Because when I came out of that, the first thing I did, or, you know, it took me about a year to come out of that, but it changed my direction. God took my head from looking this way, and He turned it and made it look that way. All of a sudden, everything that was important to me meant nothing, and the only thing that was important to me was God. And, you know, I knew at that point, I want to serve God. I want to be that's where I got my calling to be a pastor. I was already counseling, but I wanted to counsel more. I wrote my first book. I started to go to Bible college and get my first degree, and everything happened because of that prayer. But it had to shake and rock my world. And you may say, well, why would God? Well, if God could have done it an easier way, He would have. But you know, like we all do, we are thick. We are stubborn. And if God just gave me a little feather and tickled my ear every day, that would not have motivated me. If He would have given me millions of dollars, I certainly would not have served God. If He would have just made my life easier and easier and easier and more cushy, that wouldn't have done it. Matter of fact, that's what He was doing. My life was getting, and that's the interesting thing. I'm one of those few cases where God blessed me into submission. He gave me every possible thing I could ever desire. He really did. He showered me with favor and blessings and money and health and homes and possessions and prestige, everything, just to show me it wasn't what I wanted. It would not make me happy. Next thing you know, I'm quitting that job and I'm driving, moving, selling everything I know and moving to California to take over a church. It's incredible, but He knows what He's doing, people. So I know I got off on a tangent here, but the point is, in verse 7 of Psalm 18:7, when we cry out, when we pray, God does do things. We might not see it. He is. If you're praying for a lost, a wayward child, God's working. I'm not saying He's going to have something horrible happen to them. He might just, wake them up. But they have to have a need for God. They have to see that they're not happy without Him. So if we pray for our children, and that's the conundrum, people. That's the paradox. If you just constantly pray, God bless my kids, let them be healthy, wealthy, and wise, and you don't add God into that, what's the point? They're never going to come to Christ. They're never going to serve Him. They're never going to want Him because they're not going to need Him. Why? Because all we've been praying is, God, just make their life easy. Well, does anything come easily? No. You need to say, God, I want my child to come to You. Because at the end of the day, where they end up when they die, that's all I care about. And I need to be done. It needs to be done. And we need to be able to say, God, I trust You, like that contractor. I trust You. I give my child into your hands. Do what must be done. And sometimes, we pray these things for our kids. Come to Christ, grow in Christ. I wish my children would serve the Lord, whatever. There's such out there in the world. Well, how do you think God is going to do that? By letting them be more and more happy in the world? He's going to make them miserable. He's going to take away those joys. He's going to prove to them that none of that stuff means anything. And then we're always shocked when something bad happens to our kids. God, what are you doing? What happened to my child? Well, God is like, well, you told me. Do anything it takes. Rock my kids' world. Wake them up. Have them come to you. I can't do it by having them have a good party night every Friday night. That's not going to turn them to you. Just getting home safe as they drive drunk is not the answer to everything. I know it's a tough one, but you got to think upon it. We've got to think upon these things. Because God does answer people. He moves. Verse 7, then the earth shook and trembled. You know what? The demonic realms who have had their slimy claws around our necks, when God starts moving, they begin to tremble because they don't know what God has planned for us, but they know He's doing something. And they begin to tremble when someone starts to think about God. Okay? When you start to, I tell you, if you want to keep your life quiet and drama-free, don't think about God. Okay? Don't ever think about coming to the truth. Because when you start thinking about the truth and start saying, you know what, I wonder if there is a creator. You know what? The forces of hell will be chasing you down, trembling, because they don't want to lose you, okay, to the truth. You have to want the truth, people, so bad that you don't care about what you lose. You only care about what you gain. Wisdom, knowledge, a relationship with your Creator, which nothing can match. Nothing. The earth shook and trembled, the foundations also of the hill, and the hills moved and were shaken because He was wroth. God was angry. There went out a smoke out of His nostrils, and fire out of His mouth, and devoured. Coals were kindled by it. He bowed the heavens. Now, obviously, God doesn't actually have a nose with smoke coming out of it. It's describing God working in a way that we can understand. God became active. He's always active, but He became positively active in your life when you began to pray. Okay, things began to happen. God does get angry, okay? He gets angry about where we're headed, and that stirs Him up. Just like us as parents. Are you happy when you see your children going down a bad path? No, you get angry. You get stirred to action. You call people. You say, I need help. My child's involved with this. They're getting involved in drugs or that. I don't know what to do. You get activated. Not because you hate them, but because you love them. And God does the same thing. And look at verse 9. Wow, what a beautiful picture. Someone should paint a picture of this. This is just beautiful. Verse 9 of Psalm 18. He bowed the heavens. He bowed the heavens also and came down. Wow, what a picture of Christ coming to this earth. What a picture of what God will do. What will God do to one who seeks Him? He will move heaven and earth, people. He will change. He will move supernaturally things you never thought moved. He will activate. And He will start moving and shaking you. He will do, your life is going to be in for a roller coaster like you've never had before. I remember, and I often tell people this. When you first come to Christ, it's, I call it the honeymoon time, because when you first come to Christ, you're like that babe in Christ, you got your first love. And what's that? Okay. And, excuse me. And you know what? You're all excited. I remember when I came to Christ, you know, I had stickers on my car. I was telling everybody about it and thought that they would all be excited. They weren't. No one was. People thought I was crazy. I was all excited. And you have that time when you're praying and prayers are getting answered. Things are happening. You go, wow, this is great. I remember one particular time. I remember sitting at a Friendlies with my wife and the kids, and I remember I was at a zenith of my life. I was at my old job. I just kept getting promotions and money. Everything was right with the world. And I remember saying something that was very dangerous. I said, you know what? I said, God is kind of like a genie in a bottle. Man, if I rub him the right way, he gives me everything I want. I have never been so happy. This is the greatest thing. But I was happy only because I was getting what I wanted. And it was interesting when I told someone about that story, someone from church, an older lady who's gone home to be with the Lord. I remember her saying to me, you should not talk like that. You shouldn't have said that. I said, why? She said, because that is a foolish thing to say. Because usually right after you say that, some bad things come down. And it's true, because that all coincided with my fall into anxiety and depression, and God really shaking and breaking. You know, in the world today, we have a term that we have backwards. It always has a negative connotation, and that is, you know what, like a broken heart. No one wants a broken heart. But you know what's interesting? God wants to break our heart. He has to break our heart. Now, not in the way that we think of it. Okay? Not in like sadness. No, he has to take a heart. The Bible calls it our stony heart. It's made of stone. The only way you're going to get through stone is you got to break it. Turn it in, grind it into power, add a little bit of the holy water, the Holy Spirit water of life of Jesus Christ, okay? And it becomes clay again, moldable, and then you build it back. People, your heart has got to be broken. Broken of its ways, its desires, its thought patterns. You got to get out of that. And you need to say, God, break my heart. Break it. And it's not an easy thing to do or say, but that's how God begins to move. That's how he bows down the heavens. And he will. Some people, it takes years. Some people stay in a stagnant pond because they don't respond. And one of the things I've learned too is that, you know, if God keeps poking you and poking you and poking you to get you to see the light and to turn and go in the right direction, and you keep going in the other direction, there will be a time, and I don't know when this is, and you know what, I'm not going to say, thus saith the Lord, but I do believe God can take you and put you on a shelf and say, you know what, you're not responding to the Holy Spirit. You're going to do what you're going to do. When you die, you'll go to heaven, you're a Christian, but you're not responding. I've been tried for 5, 10, 15 years. You don't listen. You're not, and God knows if we're a person who's just not going to grow anymore. We're going to stay as a babe. We're going to stay as a child. And he kind of just puts us on the side and looks for someone else that he can use for his kingdom to really be productive. So don't keep on putting God off and saying, no, next year I'm really going to get serious about this. No, next year I'm going to change my way. Next year I'm really going to start. No, it's got to be now. God, what am I doing wrong? Show me, expose me, teach me, break me, hug me, hold me, show me, love me, and make me into the person you want me to be. Verse 9, Psalm 18, he bowed the heavens and came down, and darkness, okay, interesting segue here, and darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub and did fly. Yea, he did fly upon the wings of the wind. He made darkness his secret place, his pavilion round about him, where dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. At the brightness that was before him, his thick clouds past, hailstorms, coals, and fire. Now, I'm not going to go into all these scriptures here, but basically what's going on here is, beneath God is darkness, okay? That's what's in this world. And you know what? He uses the darkness of this world many times to get our attentions. He shakes things. He wakes things. Right now we see what's going on in our worlds. We got tsunamis, we got pandemics, we got volcanoes, we got earthquakes, we got fires, we got droughts. He will allow darkness to bring us to the light. People, if we don't get deeper into the darkness, we'll never yearn for the light. Sometimes we're not going to appreciate, just like, one of the things about living on the East Coast here, I lived in California for a while, is, I loved living here because the winter made me appreciate the spring, and the spring made me love the summer. But I realized when I lived in California, it was just a sunny day all the time. And it became something that I took for granted. I didn't savor. And I noticed the people there, they never appreciated, and this might sound strange. If anybody lives on Long Island, you want to plan anything, you want to plan anything outside, a wedding, a picnic, a party, a concert, event, what's our biggest fear? Going to rain. The anxiety, I remember when my middle son got married and we, watching the weather, we had a big outdoor wedding, it was tormenting. But the people in California, they have no idea what that's like. They just plan events. They have no idea. They don't even think about it ever raining because it's always a beautiful day. And it never has you yearning for it because you take it for granted. Darkness is a tool. Okay, darkness makes us yearn for the light, and sometimes we have to get into a very dark place. We have to get into a place where there's no light at all, and the only light that we want then is God's light, and He will bring us that light, and He will bring us through these dark places. He will make us victors when catastrophe and fear is all around. He will make us stand up, okay, and take notice. People, no one ever learns and grows and gets strengthened laying on the beach on a beautiful day with a fancy drink in our hands. I always say with a little umbrella in it. We always think we've living the nirvana life if we have a little drink with a little umbrella on it. It's like, that's it, we've made it. But think about it. What really gets accomplished at the beach, okay? You stay there for a couple hours, it's great. Yeah, you really don't do much good at the beach. It's fun. I love it, I haven't been to the beach in a long time, and it's kind of odd because I live on an island. But yeah, I'm not saying that it's anything wrong with it. It's beautiful. It's fun. It feels great. But you don't do much growing, okay? You don't do much learning. You don't do much changing. It's a great time to relax. But if you live on a beach like that, okay, and you live with your feet in the water and somebody's rubbing your feet and rubbing suntan on you, you're not going to strive for anything. And you'll never do anything. People, we need to get motivated by darkness. I believe that what we're going through right now is probably, it's horrible, it's ugly, it's painful, but don't think that God is not moving. He's not shaking. In Psalm 18, verse 16, and I'm jumping ahead here, it says, He sent from above, He took me, He drew me out of many waters. Okay, isn't that great? God is waiting from above to take us and to draw us out of the darkness. But if we don't think we need to be drawn, if we don't see the darkness, if we don't see we're not where we're supposed to be, okay, we're just going to get used to it. You know what? What did they say? You know what? Pigs like the mud. They don't know anything else but mud. And if you live in a pigsty, you'll get used to a pigsty until that's what your joy is. Well, this is what I am. And God says, no, come out of that. The Bible says, come out from amongst them and be ye separate, saith the Lord. We need to come out as God comes down. Anyway, we're getting close to the end of the show. Anybody have a comment? Anybody have a concern? Anything they want to add to what I just said? Any other prayer requests? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click like if you like what you hear. Don't forget that you can ask us questions, comments, email us at lifetalklive7@gmail.com. Don't forget you can add comments to the YouTube page. Don't forget to add comments below. And we have some comments here. Okay. Oh, say hi to me. I'm a Beatle maniac on YouTube. Been joining us for weeks. Okay, great. Hello to my Beatle maniac on YouTube. Okay, very cool. Okay, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and oh, come on, who was the other guitar player? Let me think. Come on, help me out here. The Beatles are a little bit before my time. And I don't know as much about the Beatles, but I do know of them. I do like Ringo Starr as a drummer. Unique drummer. He was a lefty drummer who played on a right-handed drum set. Very unique. He did his rolls completely backwards from everyone else and became a very unique drummer. So we welcome you and all those people on YouTube. Thank you for being a part of the show. George Harrison, that's right, George Harrison. And the only two people alive right now are Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, I'm pretty sure. I know the other two are dead. Thank you, Rich, for that. Anyway, everyone, thank you for the show. Thank you for hanging in here with us. I'm sorry for some of the tech issues we had. Never know what's going to happen in those creepy airways out there. But we thank you. Don't forget to check. I'm going to have a unique video word of hope coming out probably tomorrow. Would be a good one to share with some friends that have it all. I want to talk about, and I'm going to kind of leave this as a teaser. What about the people who aren't suffering? What about the people who are very happy? They're not sick. They have money, they have health, they have wealth, they have friends, they have toys, they have it all. Do they need Jesus Christ? Or is it just us poor schlumps? Okay, the alcoholic and the drug addict and the person with anxiety and depression. I'm going to talk about something very untouched and untapped. It's an important question. Anyway, thank you everyone for being patient with me tonight and with the show. I hear our music playing. That means we are out of time, and we hope to see you tomorrow night, Sunday morning, Sunday night. Please share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and thank you for your support. Thank you, and God bless you all.